This is Wrench Nation. Car talk, car culture, car tips, car music, all that is car. Wrench Nation Car Talk. Call or text your questions now.
Well, all right. Welcome back, Wrench Nation, our year-in review show. Susie and Tyler's hanging. What is our first time doing the podcast in our mobile gear. Welcome, Susie. How you doing?
I'm amazing, Frank. How are you? Hi,
I'm
Tyler.
good.
Hi.
Look at us go. Yeah. So if you're catching us, this year-in review, it is a special deal for us because, first off, the past year has been incredible. And we have had many ups and downs, and we are just grateful that you guys hang with us. And particularly this show is pretty special because we've got our little mobile studio thing set up right here in the garage.
Frank, you had a vision and you made it possible.
Well, I was sometimes like the vision was clouded and blinded, but I don't want to get too much into the technicals. But what that means is we're going to be able to take the show anywhere, anytime.
That's what's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Scalable Wrench Nation.
Yeah, which means, so we figured we'd do the year in review. I think we've had something like 50 shows this past year with a smorgasbord.
Has it been that many?
I think so, yeah.
Wow.
Time flies.
It does time fly. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so, you know, we always say we're grateful for you guys hanging with us. Of course, on the iTunes, you can catch Wrench Nation, as well as we play out of 88.7 The Pulse. That's the East Valley Institute of Technology. Susie, can you talk about EVIT? Let the folks know what is so special about EVIT out there.
Yeah, absolutely, Frank. You know, EVIT is a technological school that I guess it's a skill set school, right? Where
Yeah, it's for
kids
trades.
and I was amazed. I mean, they have mechanics, they have culinary, they even have, is it firefighting they have
They
there?
have firefighting.
Yeah, welding. Tyler actually took welding, I think.
Yep. Welding and automotive.
Well, you were part of the automotive program out there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Tyler, you've been with us 3 years here at the garage. And one of the reasons why we do it out of EVIT, I think it's special for all of us, really,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
is to be able to do a show and be connected to the school. One of these amazing schools. We did, I think it was 2 years ago, we did the Skills USA National Competition. We had the show there in Kentucky. Of course, Mike Rowe was in house, but we didn't get to.
Not that time. We didn't.
No, we didn't. But
Mike
it's
Rowe was
all-
really there?
Mike Rowe was in house.
He's
Oh.
a huge supporter of Skills USA.
That is so cool.
Yeah, so big shout out to EVIT. That's where we do the show. You guys will hear us from 88.7 The Pulse. We're proud to be out of that studio. And then, of course, on Saturday, we replay KFNX. You know, it's an AM station that has a 50,000-watt signal, and it gives folks another opportunity to hear our show.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so as we always do, we're going to get into some of the news, and I would like to start off with Toyota and Mazda are spending $6 million on some fish in Alabama.
Fish.
Now, why would you think they would?
Like as in fish?
Yeah,
water?
like fish. Like these
in
are
the water.
car manufacturers, Toyota and Mazda. They're spending $6 million out there. Of course, they're doing some special things. I'd like to add they're adding jobs. They're building factories
Okay.
right here in the United States, which is really cool. I mean, we've heard some news lately that seems
Yeah.
like with General Motors.
Yeah.
I was going to say that sounded a little fishy, but till you said
Yeah,
they're
there you
opening
go.
up some jobs.
Yeah. So just over a month since Mazda and Toyota actually broke ground, they've got this new venture plant out in Alabama. And as they sign this deal, they're going to be making Toyota Corollas. They're going to be doing all kinds of stuff out there. They actually went out and spent $6 million to protect. What kind of fish do they have out there? They have the spring pygmy sunfish.
Never heard of it.
Okay.
I've never heard of it.
I haven't either.
But the fact is they're
But they're doing something good.
to the
They're doing something
ecology.
good. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think growing up, we used to have back in the 70s and 80s, it was a bad time. People didn't care what was in the bag. I mean, Tyler, you didn't come
I was
from...
gonna say,
no.
no,
You
I
came
was-
into a
that was
green
before.
society. But, Susie, you remember back in the day.
Oh, yeah, but now we're seeing some results of some of our behaviors in the past, you know, like the plastic in the oceans and whatnot.
Of course, like straws. I actually was at a chicken joint earlier today with my kids, and my daughter, my oldest, she was like, oh gosh, I got the straw. I'm not supposed to get the straw. They kill turtles.
Oh,
No, it's something we think about now for some reason. At least I know my generation. Even when I grab a straw, I'm like, do I really need this straw?
Yeah.
That's
It's
cool.
not just straws, but yeah, plastic in general.
I just started cutting up, you know, the 6-pack. When I buy my 6 packs of sodas, I start cutting up my plastic
We've come
holders
a long
now.
way.
Yeah.
We've come a long way. But that $1.6 billion facility in Huntsville, Alabama, will be primarily making the 2020 Toyota Corolla, which is that's top selling.
Yeah.
Corolla, that car ain't going anywhere.
No, that's been around forever.
I always said if Toyota, if we had nothing but Corollas on the street, a lot of mechanics would be out of business. I think
Because they're so dependable, aren't they?
Life.
Yeah, so there you have it. That's the news. It's good to see the big manufacturers not only creating jobs here in the United States, but also being conscientious about their neighborhood.
And you said that was in Alabama, huh?
That was in Alabama.
Okay.
4,000 jobs, going to save some fish and produce some economy.
That's a win-win.
That's
It's
a
a
story.
win-win-win.
Yeah, it's a
it is.
win-win-win.
What do you got, Susie, in your world of news, girl?
Well, this is interesting. You got to hear this. So everybody takes Uber when they're drunk, right? I mean, a lot of people, drunk drivers, will call Uber, right?
That's changed a lot of the
they don't drunk.
statistics.
So yeah, it has. But you know what? Uber actually came up with a patent application that's gonna actually, with the algorithm, try to detect if passengers are drunk when they're hailing
What
the
do they
cab.
got? What are they going to turn the camera on, looking at you?
No, it's really interesting. They're actually gonna it's gonna be like how they're holding the phone when they're hailing the cab, how fast they type or how many errors or mistypes they make.
So
but
if-
they're also gonna check it from historical rides and see if it's out of characteristic. So if Tyler, you hail a Uber and you're always misspelling, you're not gonna be one that's gonna be identified as drunk.
So are
Okay,
you? I
all
mean,
right.
how
I'm safe.
misspelling would be the address?
It could be anything, or
Like a
you know
text
what, or a
message?
special direction. Pick me up in front of.
Because I figured if you misspell the address and you miss an Uber, then there you go. That's the test.
Yeah.
You-
But
you
they're
ain't
also
getting-
they're also going to check that history too. Is this a recurring address?
I see.
So they're going to check a few things.
Well, I know they can spend a lot of money. Tyler, if you get drunk and get in some Uber, you blow up on the carpets and stuff. That's like $100.
Yeah.
Have you done that?
No, I have not, but I've definitely
You're all
hailed an
responsible. Look at Tyler's all responsible.
Uber. Well,
What are you saying, Tyler?
I've definitely hailed Ubers, intoxicated before because that's why I use Uber. you
Right.
know?
I think many people. It saves.
It's a safe
Yeah.
bet. It's a safe way to get home.
Right.
But the guy getting a call on his phone to pick up. Does the algorithm? Does he figure that out?
So here's what they're able to do. So they're not going to say, no, we're not going to take you for a ride, because they obviously want to keep that driver off the road.
Right.
What they are going to do is they may pair up the rider with a skilled driver, a more skilled driver.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Which I think is kind of cool.
Okay.
What's next? I mean, therapists, Uber therapists. I mean, for me, sometimes I have too many, and I
Right.
call a Lyft, and I have a tendency to be one of them funny drunks. I'm not a violent drunk.
You're
by
not
any
a
means,
violent drunk.
but I would like a particular type of driver so I can,
To
make them
enhance
laugh
your
at my
night. Yeah,
sorry jokes.
Right.
Yeah, to enhance your
A
night
driver
little
that's
bit.
not going to kick you out of the car, right?
Right,
A
right.
driver who literally is more patient,
Isn't
apparently.
going to get distracted.
Exactly.
Okay, I can see that.
And it's a twofold thing, because I guess Uber has had many complaints on, sexual harassment, I guess, so it goes
Really?
twofold.
Okay.
So it's going to protect the driver, it'll protect the intoxicated passenger. And, when you think about it, if an intoxicated passenger gets in the car, they are susceptible to, to anything.
I don't know, man. I like Lyft. I think Lyft has, I don't know what you guys think, but Lyft to me seems to be a cleaner operation.
You just like their Lifty Award.
I like the Lifty Award too. We talked about that. Speaking of Lifty Award, we've had ups and downs throughout the year, and we kind of shared a lot of our journey with you guys. Before we get into some of the show topic review, we like to sort of spread out some car care tips, if you want to call it that, from some of the things that we've had in the garage. And this past week was pretty interesting. We had a particular gentleman with a Cadillac, and this has been an ongoing problem for 2 months. And he would call in, hey, when I drive over these railroad tracks, I get my stability control light comes on. So he'd come in the garage, and we couldn't really find nothing hard of evidence. Well, time went on, and it got worse, and finally he dropped it off, and we dug deeper, and sure enough, what we found, we were expecting the stability track control sensor, steering angle sensor, I should say, which is in the steering wheel. It's very common if you have a GM, for that matter, for many vehicles. And so we actually, before we went in to get into that component. We ordered the steering angle sensor, the related updated connector, and off we go. We were into the repair. And what we found was the angle sensor wasn't a problem, or the connector. There was actually a retainer. It looks like a small little brush, like a little comb, tiny guy, maybe an inch or two. And it's what keeps that connection stable. So that would explain
That's interesting.
It is, yeah. I mean, so... But if you drive a Cadillac, or for that matter, I think the point is we don't always have a bad component. It could be a connection issue. One of the first steps that you'll find in any flow chart when you're actually checking electrical under the hood, you guys can do this on the weekend if you're listening, is to really get back to basics and make sure the connectors are good, right? So there you have it. So we're going to continue on. We're going to dive into the past year. Susie, I, and Tyler are hanging with you. We are going back in time for the year, the highs, the lows, some of the shows we thought were pretty cool, and definitely going to cover some of the very unique guests that we had. You guys stick around.
Bolt-On Technologies Automotive Software Solutions. Auto repair shops that have Bolt-On Technologies software provide customer vehicle condition reports, including photos and text, real-time digital reports, multi-point inspections, estimates, and repair information at your fingertips. Info at boltontechnology.com.
Well, all right. Welcome back, Wrench Nation. Frank, Susie, and of course, Tyler rejoining with you guys. So appreciate you guys hanging out with us. This is our last show of the year, and we figured we'd give it a year in review. Some of the good, bad, and ugly. And of course, the shows that we've had, I don't know, close to 50 shows. We do the weekly live show out of EVIT every Wednesday. And of course, it's played up in the podcast Sunday, and then Saturday, KFNX. One of the great shows that I thought was really had a powerful message. We always hear in the news certain portions of society, whether you're in Chicago, New York, or LA, it seems like there's a have and have nots. Like there are certain folks that don't have a fighting chance. They're in the communities, and they seem to be in this vicious cycle. We had Larry Witherspoon on.
I was actually able to go to college on a football scholarship, but I kind of lost my way. I was using drugs and dealing drugs. Like, what am I doing with my life? I'm going to either end up dead or in jail. At that point, I kind of did a 180 and was like, I just want to be positive with whatever I'm doing. Went back and got my degree. And then I moved to Atlanta, and I intentionally moved into an inner city neighborhood. Got the idea to incorporate my love of cars. I'd start a repair shop and just employ them. We currently work with Fulton County Juvenile Court, Superior Court, State Department of Juvenile Justice.
That was show number 119. And of course, you guys can catch that. Go back to iTunes podcast and find that. But Larry's running this Atlanta training center, and he's actually breaking that vicious cycle of incarceration through some pretty incredible automotive education. And I don't know if you remember,
Yeah,
Susie,
he's making a huge impact.
He is making, and I've actually followed up with him the last few months. Of course, I didn't talk to him personally, but I can tell by way of some of his social media posts that his program's getting bigger. You know, look, at the end of the day, it has to be sponsored. There has to be some money put into these programs, or else they die.
Right.
Larry actually decided after college that he was going to move back into the inner city. He could have easily gotten a better gig and lived in a better neighborhood, and he decided, I'm going to take my skill set, and he created this Atlanta training program. So you can find Larry out in Atlanta, and as well as the Facebook post. Of course, we'll have that link. In fact, we're going to have all the show links throughout social media. But I enjoyed that show.
That was a good show.
It's impacting. Like, we don't think we can do anything.
It's inspiring.
It is.
It is inspiring.
Tyler, you've had a few occasions when you came out of the East Valley Institute of Technology as a younger technician, you've had some occasion to give back your skill set.
I try to as much as I can. I'm fortunate enough with what we do. We have interns with EVIT, and they come and work with us, and I try and teach them everything I know and any advice I can give them, and how to get a little...
I mean, it's never a perfect science, but I think I always said that, part of the situation with the industry right now with the shortage of mechanics is we got to go from a now hiring to a now mentoring.
Now mentoring, yeah.
Susie, we do a lot of stuff in the garage throughout the year in that respect.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, we love our intern right now, Luca.
Yeah,
He's
Luca.
a good
Big
kid.
shout outs to Luca Calhoun. I mean, he came to us, he was 16.
Yeah.
Yep.
What is he, 17 now?
We
Yep,
watched him
17.
graduate.
Yeah, we
High
did.
school.
He graduated high school. Yep.
But I think the point is when you look at guys like Larry Witherspoon and yourself, Tyler, you don't have to do that. I mean, you could work your day, get through it, and be done with it. But you make it a point to help.
does.
In this case, to help Luke out.
Of course, it feels good to give back, and then it also you're helping. I guess you're just helping people.
Do you feel like you're growing?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah, when you teach others, you definitely grow. And when you ask Luca, too, did you learn a lot? And he's always, every day, saying, I learned so much today.
Man, I wish I
Yeah.
had that opportunity
Yeah.
when I was coming up like that. One of the things I think the industry has seen is, I think we did it to ourselves, is, let's just face it, some of the senior technicians when I was coming up, working at the dealership and stuff, they weren't that quick to lend a hand or help out.
Not
I
at
mean,
all.
their head was in the hood. And
Every man for himself.
you ever work in an environment like that, Tyler?
Somewhat. Yeah. My last shop was very, actually, very much so like that. Figure it out yourself more so, and
Yeah.
good luck.
As an entry-level technician, did you find yourself working on cars or not really?
The opportunity itself was far and few between. Mainly just, hey, clean this up for me. Or
Do you think
sweep-
that's a
sweep
problem
this.
for a lot of younger technicians? I know we're doing a year in review, and we've had plenty of shows on the deal, but
It doesn't help you expand when it's that situation, because you're not able to show your worth in that aspect, I think.
yeah, do you feel belittled when?
Oh,
when-
100%.
See, because some garage owners feel that, these kids don't know anything, and so we really can't put them under the hood of a car.
With anything you do in life, there's going to be mistakes you make, and if you're going to, have someone coming up and try and have them take that next step, you have to accept the mistakes they may make.
It should be
teach them
supervised.
better.
I think it
Yeah,
should be,
100%.
like here in the garage, we do the cross hood check. So, Susie, let's move on. So, we talked about Larry Witherspoon, the breaking the vicious cycle of incarceration, doing some great things. What sticks out for the past year?
A show
What's
that sticks out for me is the Hot Wheels.
So we got an exciting show. Larry Wood's going to join us, the father of Hot Wheels, legendary designer. We're going to talk to Ken Vella, Wicked Customs. He's got a wicked Porsche.
125 horsepower, a 914 four-cylinder air-cooled nitrous injection.
rat rod that he built with his own hands. That rat rod had dually rear tires, had a diesel motor. That's what Hot Wheels is.
Cool show.
Larry was a cool cat.
Yeah.
I liked Larry.
Yeah, just his creativity to generate these cool cars is just amazing. And they're still around today for 99 cents.
Well, that was a point he made. He said, where can you go where you have a product that hasn't changed the price?
That's right.
Still. One of the things that was cool that Larry had said, he had designed early days. Now, mind you, he was the designer.
Right.
The first guy to really hit, of course, back in the day, I think it was 60s, 70s.
Right.
They only had 3 or 4 or 5 cars. Now they've got, you can get cars in anything.
That's right.
But he had said that he designed a tow truck. I forget the name of the tow truck, but what was show number?
Was
that?
show 122. Was
All
it the Bone Chiller?
No, not the Bone Chiller. That was my favorite.
That was
car.
your, yeah.
But no, he designed, the key was he designed this truck. He put his
With a
phone
phone number.
He put his
That's
phone number on it,
right.
and he had phone calls.
Yes, he did.
So what show again? I'm sorry.
122.
122. So if you're listening, an amazing show, actually, getting into sort of how Hot Wheels started. And the details of that, and of course Ken Vella
With the Hot Wheels tour.
Yeah, Ken Vella sort of was side by side with Hot Wheels National, doing the national tour where you could, build your ride and possibly be selected as the next Hot Wheels. I think that's done. I think they've announced that. I don't know.
Have they?
I don't know. I haven't followed through, but I know that was a cool show.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to get.
And wasn't
into.
that when we discovered Larry and Ken actually, he worked for him? Like 30 years?
No, that was
that a different
another.
show?
That was different. That was Joe Bortz.
Bortz, yes, that's right.
Which I have is another one of my. So Tyler, I mean, Tyler, you're not always on the show. You come in once in a while.
Yeah, I like to pop
Hang
my head
on.
in and say
Yeah.
hi.
And the reality is we're running an active garage.
Oh, yeah.
And all of us, and I'm grateful to you guys, Susie, especially you, man, because you're running the service counter, the service lounge, and for us to be able to pull this off. So you guys know, I mean, it does take planning, but it literally, we leave the garage at what time? What, at 3?
2 and 3 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah, and then boom, we're right in at 4 o'clock on a Wednesday. Yeah. And, of course, we write the show notes. But Tyler, you've been on a few times. What show strikes out to you?
I really like the Is My Vehicle Dead to Me? Because I feel like that's a really good show. It's a really good question a lot of people have problems with.
They told me it was going to be more than what the car was even worth.
I had a Pontiac Grand Am 04 that would cost me over $1,000 in repair to fix. Didn't do it.
We said you went to the mechanic, you went to the dealer, and it was a bad investment.
I had to replace the transmission, also all the bushings, and part of the engine went bad, so it was a mistake to just fix the car because it was a lot of money invested on that thing. So I fixed it and I spent like almost $2,200, and then I wanted to trade it in, and they gave me the same credit, $500, so it wasn't worth it at all.
It was a Hyundai Sonata. I thought I was gonna have it for like 225, 300,000 miles. I thought I'm pretty good steward of my vehicle, but it was a transmission, and they were like, "How much do you like this car?" And I was like, "I don't know, it's just a car."
Is it worthy of fixing it?
Is it worthy of fixing it? Yeah. Or should I invest in a new car? When is that point, you have to make? That was show 109.
Show 109.
Yeah.
That's a big question, Susie. People come in there. Is it worth fixing the car?
When we talk about the national average is what, 12 to 1,500 that you will spend on your vehicle?
Over 60,000 miles.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough decision. Many of you listening have a sentiment, right? You're sentimental with your ride.
I'll say sentimental, yep.
And throughout the years, I've seen it where I felt like I was doing somebody a favor and saying, hey, don't spend the money.
Right.
No, this was given to me. And what comes to mind is we had a really amazing gal come in the garage with it. Was it a Chevy Cavalier?
Oh yes.
1989
Yep.
Chevy Cavalier V6, if I remember. A little small. I think it was a 2.8. And she said, yes, we want to put a motor in that. Mm-hmm. And the car wasn't in bad shape, but it was an 89.
But
and
it's not a car you often see kept alive.
You don't.
But
wasn't it her dad's?
It was her dad's.
Yeah.
And I think later on in the year, she has another car.
Yeah, she does, a Trans Am.
She's got a Pontiac. So we saw her at a car show.
Yes, we did.
Of course, it was hugs and all that. Hey, thanks for taking care of my. But that just proves the point. Like if you're listening and you go in a garage and they're showing some indifference, that's not cool, right? You want to be able to have a relationship where you can trust.
Yep.
That, like you said, that show was really diving into, is this vehicle dead to me? Like, do I need to spend the money on it? I think people struggle with that, Tyler.
Oh, 100%. I have a friend that's 19 years old who she got a car from her grandma. It's good enough, but she's like, I don't want to spend the money on this anymore. And they're not major repairs. She's looking to buy a brand new car. I'm like,
well, I think some people don't want to see a mechanic.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Yeah,
I mean, we're spending it in other ways, but there's a sense there. Let me ask you, since you're talking, this particular gal that just wants to be set it and forget it. Mm-hmm. Do you find that a lot of your friends are, I don't want to drive?
I have a couple. Yeah, I do not feel that way.
Of course not.
But a lot of my friends Uber everywhere, Lyft everywhere.
Yeah.
Is that a millennial thing?
I don't know. It's millennial. Millennials, that's a little later.
Later, okay.
Generation
Z, right?
Z. So it's
Generation
not quite. Millennials a cutoff.
Okay.
But millennials are, they're taking other modes of transportation, especially in big cities.
Sure.
I mean, I didn't drive.
Yeah.
in
Personal
New York.
preference,
Yeah.
What used to be easier to take the bus, it's easier to take a Lyft.
Yeah. Well, I always said that I think our great grandkids, they're going to look at us, maybe our grandkids. All those people, they drove.
Yeah.
They were schmucks. I mean, because we only use vehicles, 10% of the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if that's a reality check that most people can. But we want the convenience. We like the freedom. I don't think that's going away by any means. But So Vehicle Dead to Me.
Vehicle Dead.
That was one of your favorites. Speaking of guests, we've had quite a few mechanics. I love having our local, garage owners on the show. And I always, throughout social media, say, if you're listening, you've got a garage and you want to be on the show. We're hopeful that 2019 brings us a little closer to the technology, and we'd love to have you on the show talking about your garage. But we've had several pretty cool mechanics and garage owners, and I think like one of the biggest premises of Wrench Nation is not only to journey some cool and fascinating guests and the things that they do, but really to just tell the story of our industry. And I don't believe in a polished scenario. I think so. Our future in 2019 is going to get closer to that. And again, for us to be able to, Susie, to have this mobile setup where we set up these mics in the garage, I think that's pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah. So I got lost track. I got a little emotional with the whole spread the word in the industry. We had Lee and Kelli Weatherby of Accurate Automotive.
Oh, I love them.
Such a spirited people, but they were behind our $4,000 scholarship.
Yeah.
For many of you that have been listening to the show for a while, the first year was a female scholarship.
Right.
It was dedicated towards female scholarship, and I struggled a little bit with that, honestly.
Sure.
I thought
you opened it up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if we had more money, more people, right, and maybe next year we will. Maybe we'll.
Give two.
I'm working on some things in the background, but. To be able to give a scholarship, it should be open to everyone. But our first year was the female. Yeah, and
that was in 2017.
17.
Right.
And Lee and Kelli Weatherby were behind that. Kelli came on the show, and she was really passionate about getting behind, to that level of help.
Right.
Her and her husband do many things in the garage for the community, but she just was really passionate behind getting, the women and our guys out there an opportunity. Tyler, you went to school with some cats that couldn't afford the school. You think that's a big? Is automotive school right now?
I couldn't afford the school.
Yeah,
I couldn't afford the school at all. I was lucky enough to get in when I did with EVIT for the.
How did that happen? Give people a scenario since we're talking about how did you approach that?
I was lucky enough at the time. It is no longer. It was called the 22 and under program. If you were under 22 years of age, you could go to a trade school for free, and EVIT was a part of that. So I was able to walk into that and only pay class fees, which was around $100, and take the entire course.
What's a course like that cost now?
This
was $4,000. I think it's $4,000.
I'm not sure about the automotive, but for the welding, it was $8,000.
Yeah,
for 1 year.
And I think, not to knock the private schools like Wildtech or UTI, those are some great programs, but you had the flexibility, too, to be able to get in and do the classwork, but also work outside.
100%. They were very, very, very flexible with me coming into the shop and working around my schedule and still providing the same education.
Right. No, that's
so was
key.
it like a grant? Is that what you...
Yeah, I think they stripped that program. And this is the problem. I forget who said it. I think it was possibly said on the show, or I forget. But L.A., to give you an example, had well over 100 high schools that had automotive program. And I think it's down to 4, and they're getting it down to 2.
Oh, my.
So, here we are. We're in the industry. Of course, we're going to want to promote all this.
Yep.
But there are reasons for that. I think next year we are going to dive in deeper to that. In fact, I will tease out in January, we've got Jennifer Maher from Tech Force Foundation. She's going to come on.
Nice.
And they do a huge level of scholarships for kids. But
yeah, so I think I need to correct myself. When I talked about EVIT earlier, I think I said technological, but it's a trade school.
It's a trade, yeah.
Yep.
It's all right. It's our first
all around.
Yeah, it's okay. In the garage we're setting. Yeah, don't worry about it. I will tell you this, MacBook Pro is saying my disk is almost full. So I think we should take a break. Let our sponsors, and a big shout out to our sponsors, Bolt-On Technology as well as Parts Authority. We're going to come back. We're talking about the year in review. We're going to dive into some more of the fascinating guests, the highs and lows, and cover some of the topics. Of course, you can find us on iTunes. We'd love it if you guys can subscribe over there. Maybe give us a review. Until then, stay tuned. Next, the year in review.
Parts Authority Auto Parts Superstores, nationwide locations. You know, one of the problems that I can have working in my garage is parts aren't delivered on time, the quality isn't there. Well, guess what? Who's yelling at me? My clients, and they're likely not to come back. Well, the Parts Authority Auto Parts Superstores, amazing service, knowledgeable counter folks, a complete line of original equipment, parts that our customers deserve. If you're an installer, get on to partsauthority.com. Check locations nationally near you. Partsauthority.com.
Welcome back, Wrench Nation Car Talk. Frank, Susie, and of course Tyler hanging with you guys. We're talking a little bit about the year in review. Of course, you can catch a lot of the shows that we're talking about. There quite a few. Inside of 50, I think we did this year. WrenchNation.tv. And please, if it's your first time listening to the show, we invite you to head on over to Facebook. We've got some activity there. We try to tease out the show topics that we have. And also the Inside the Garage series videos. For the last 2 months, it's been very, very hectic. We try to put out the garage tip videos. And we're going to dive in a little more next year into the sort of the business management operation side. I think that's important. And you mentioned, Tyler, I think this is really key before we get into the shout-outs, that this being our very first Inside the Garage podcast, like we went out and got the gear.
We're literally sitting in a bay. Inside the garage right now.
Yeah, and it's a little
in a cold garage.
It's a little chilly.
Yeah, but
it's nice. It's
you
nice.
guys are laughing at us from back east and Midwest, but I thought in the summer it's going to be challenging.
It'll be nice and toasty at some point.
110 degrees in the garage here in Chandler, Arizona, outside of Phoenix. But speaking of Inside the Garage videos, Tyler, you're a testament because you've done an amazing job helping me out with these videos. In the summer, it gets challenging for sound because the coolers are blaring.
The coolers kill us sometimes.
So I think one of our goals is to get better sound, for sure. But people get creamed on YouTube if the sound.
Sound,
video
video quality,
yeah. How's your sound over there, Susie?
My sound is A-OK.
There you go. All right, so what I thought it would be cool. I mean, we're probably going to miss a ton of shout-out individuals, but doing this in the evening after a long day of holiday shopping. You guys went shopping today?
I didn't.
I didn't either. No,
I did. I bought the microwave.
Big enough for a turkey.
I'm waiting till probably Christmas Day to go
Your
shopping.
last minute, yeah. Thank goodness for Jeff Bezos and Amazon. But Amazon's even too late now.
Oh, yeah.
I think it is, yeah.
It's too late for Amazon. Yep. But shout-outs, we have a relationship and have to bring this up. And I want to tell you guys why we have this relationship. I think it's important. The show isn't a commercialized show, although it's nice to have folks that support the show. And, during the break, you hear Parts Authority and you hear Bolt-On Technology. And I made a decision when sort of putting this show together just over 2 years ago that I want to do business with people and have sponsors that I know personally, like I do business with.
Yeah.
And so Bolt-On Technology is the tablets, the digital tablets. And what that means is if you go into a garage and they give you an estimate and it's kind of chicken scratched out, you're not sure, you're like, do I need this? Bolt-On gives you the ability as a technician to actually take pictures. Actually, they have a whole suite of
pictures, videos, everything.
And I know on the service counter, talk about what Bolt-On does up at the service counter for us.
Well, first of all, customers love this technique because they actually get to open up the link and they get to see the pictures.
So you're sending a text message.
We're sending a text message, and the customers actually get to see what caused their concern. And then
we just also added, Bolt-On has this feature. It's almost like watching
the
pizza.
status, yeah.
The status report where I always tell folks is like watching your pizza cook with Domino's. But we actually will update people quietly. They get a little, waiting for parts. Cars completed.
Inspecting.
Inspecting.
Yep. Yeah. So it's funny because the customers will be standing at the counter where we're checking them in, and as soon as we create a work order, you'll hear ding on their phone, and they're like, "Oh, you just sent me a text," and then it's kind of cool because then we explain.
I think transparency is key, and I think it brings us one of our goals here in the garage. I think we probably have 3 or 4 big goals for 2019 is to try to go paper free. It's not easy.
That is not easy.
We've been with Bolt-On since 2013. We were very early adopters. And Mike Resich, Frank Dragoni, of course, JB comes on the show and does the little Bolt-On challenge question. But we are truly grateful to Bolt On for their support of the show. They were the first supporters, and they help us tremendously. So if you are a shop owner and you're listening, or if you're a customer, potential consumer listening, tell your local garage about Bolt On. There are a few other digital outfits out there. The bottom line is just go digital, and I think that helps the consumer. Technicians, did you feel like you had sort of resistance to doing the tablet? Like you felt like it took longer? Or?
No, I love it. I absolutely loved it. I adapted very well to it. It gives you more of a workflow as well with our inspections.
Once you get into a behavior set where you're doing,
I love it.
Yeah. Parts Authority is another outfit, big company. They've got over 150 stores nationally. They distribute original equipment parts. And I've had a relationship here with the garage for many, many years with Parts Authority. Mm-hmm. And they came on board and sort of supported the show. And again, if you're a garage owner or a technician, you want quality parts. But you also want options. And I think this is cool. Susie, we get a lot of folks in the garage that, hey, they're selling their cars. And they may not want to spend on that AC Delco original equipment or, this original equipment. ASIN comes to mind, Motorcraft. Not that that's wrong, but, that may be a little more than they want to spend. And what I generally like about Parts Authority is they have a whole collection of parts to give you options.
They do.
And that helps us because there's no sense if somebody says, I want to get rid of my car in a month, we want to help them with their cost. So kudos to Parts Authority. Jim Crossan is a rock star. And speaking of Jim Crossan and Parts Authority, we had a chance to hang out with Blake Alexander again,
that was
NHRA. Cool. Tyler and I went out to Pomona, and I was a Pomona virgin to NHRA. I've never. Can you believe?
So was I.
I've never been out to Pomona. I've talked to many people about Pomona. I've read about it, and talked to many people about just the amazing history of. We didn't have a chance. They have actually a museum out there.
Oh yeah, the museum.
Next time we go out, we'll go.
Great.
But we got a chance to hang out with Blake Alexander. Pronto National Auto Parts is sort of a consortium which Parts Authority is a part of. Pronto has Blake Alexander and that NHRR team as one of the sort of lead sponsors for Pronto. And Blake is a genuine guy.
Oh, very,
he is.
very.
And young. The guy's pretty young.
And his wife, too. It's just adorable.
Yeah, and I got a chance to talk to Blake a little deeper, and Blake has a marketing mind.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. That's his gig. And so when, what do you do when you're not running down, 10,000 horsepower rail down the. What do you
find something else to do?
And what he does is he spends a lot of time marketing
building
the
his
team,
future.
that whole team.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
I ran into Blake Alexander several times throughout the year with different industry gigs for Pronto and Parts Authority, and amazing guys. So a big shout out to Parts Authority and Bolt On Technology. Again, I invite you guys to visit with them and give them an opportunity. Susie, you got any shout outs for the folks for the past year?
Yeah, one comes to mind is Tony Barraz. He was a guest on our show, and he talked about the Indy car history. And
winning the Indy 500 is like winning the World Series, right? So the drivers and the teams put a lot of effort into it, and you can see that, driver to driver, individual to individual. Some are real heads down and quiet and really focused.
Game face.
They got their game face, no doubt.
Other drivers are just real kind of loose and fun-loving, and this is going to be great, and this is what I've been waiting for. And the closer you get to the green flag, the more and more all of that kind of ancillary stuff, dealing with sponsors and, wife and kids and all that just kind of falls away.
He went way back.
He did.
Way back in time.
And he runs automoblog.net, and just
he's one of the writers. Yeah,
he's one of the writers, and he was just a really interesting guy.
What I think about Tony Barraz, absolutely, he's an amazing automotive journalist, and that particular show, I don't know if we have a show number that we can get. But again, you can get on wrenchnation.tv, and certainly on iTunes you can kind of peruse through. And by the way, SoundCloud as well. I forget all the different, but if you're a podcaster, you're in the arena of Google Play and all that. But what strikes me out is pretty cool what Tony helped us with Wrench Nation, and we love the little help, right?
Yeah.
Let's face it, like I don't have a huge budget to send this thing flying out, all over internet land. What show number is it?
So 127 is
Show
the show
127.
number. Legacy Indie ebook.
Right. So he wrote a book on the
Legendary history of the Brickyard.
The Brickyard, but also that show was really covering the history of Indianapolis and how that town just converts into a major affair for the Indy. And Tony and automoblog.net, they actually gave us a pretty cool write-up.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if they said they were hashtag posseized or whatever, Wrench Nation posse. But I think we all are. We're grateful when we get some of the major automotive industry publications and, the journalists out there that actually, not only they enjoy kind of hanging out, but they give us a write-up. And that's really, it's helpful. I mean, I'm not saying that's what we're after, but let's face it. I mean, we're a small show, and we appreciate it. It's all good. Any other shout-outs? Tyler, you got any shout-outs?
I have 2 shout-outs. I have Randy Baker and Cody Metcalf with EVIT. Randy Baker is no longer with EVIT. He was an instructor for many years. Fantastic guy. And when he retired, Cody Metcalf stepped into his shoes. And perfect fit, exact same passion and drive. He's a young guy, and to actually come out.
He's a talented technician.
Yeah,
he's a key technician.
To come out of the technician field.
Making more money.
Oh, yeah. Took a step down financially for sure.
Yeah.
And to dedicate that to the future of the automotive industry is inspiring in itself.
Now, didn't Randy pave the path for you to join?
100%. Randy was actually my instructor when I came to intern here. He gave me the call and asked me the night before if I wanted to come down to an independent shop here in Chandler. And
right.
I said yes, obviously.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Randy Baker, he was a stalwart. Even he retired, and he was very admired. And of course, it's not easy finding automotive instructors.
Not at all.
And they struggle with that. A lot of the technology schools and I think as well as in the private sector, whether it be at community college level. But Cody Metcalf came out of nowhere.
Yeah, nowhere.
And he is blazing it away. In fact, Cody will be on. I believe we've got him booked for the January. We're doing Tech Force Foundation. We're going to dive into some of the topic as to what's this all about, this shortage of mechanics. I mean, I think there's some generalized conversation, and it doesn't go any deeper than that. I think many are trying to make a difference, and the industry is moving a little bit in a direction to change ways effectively, But Cody, we're supposed to get Cody Metcalf on that show. Susie Q, Susie Sockets, who do you got there for shout out?
Another one would have been Ray West, our World War II vet.
The time we was pulling into Guam, we run out of fuel. Couldn't get enough fuel for our engines to run. So I immediately knew what the problem was. We had a restriction from a tank to our main supply of our engine. So I took the hatch off of the diesel tank, got down in it, and swam down into the suction side of the line that fed our engine, and found a big rag that
sucked in through the suction side of that.
Right. And
so you're saying
pulled it out of there.
You went into
into the diesel
tank,
and swam down into the suction side of the tank to get that rag out of there that the construction people left in during the war.
That was so wicked awesome.
Yeah, World War II vet,
Ex-mechanic.
I love that show.
Yeah, and he's 92.
Crazy how he made it. He drove from where?
Cottonwood or something.
Well, that was almost 80, 90 miles away.
Yeah.
Did he drive?
His wife did.
His wife. Yeah, he doesn't drive anymore. But that was I totally forgot about that show.
Yeah, that was interesting.
He accounted, one of the stories he had, which I thought was pretty cool, the ship was dead in the water, diesel engines, and he actually went into the diesel tank where the reservoir of diesel fuel is hanging out, swam in this diesel fuel to get down to the fuel pump, and there was a rag A cotton rag.
Oh, rag.
Dude, there was a rag restricting it, and
Yep.
this wasn't just some casual. Okay, we can have a picnic now. They were in the South Pacific. It was
It
battlefield.
was detrimental.
Yeah, and so he saved the day, and it was really cool to have somebody of that age who's very fragile and sharp as a whistle. And I remember asking him a question: what do you think about this generation?
Yeah.
Like the Tylers of the world. And I was expecting him to say they're good for nothings.
Right.
But he didn't.
Exact opposite.
Exact opposite. And in fact, he further went on to say that, hard work is the core of everything.
Yep.
From any generation. And so
I like that a lot. Yeah. No,
yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, I don't look, I think it's odd how generations work where, our parents told us, oh, you don't do that. They're crazy and they're listening to that rock and roll or whatever they say. And now somehow we twist it with Tyler and your generation.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a natural evolution of
it is, and we just got to communicate. I always said you just got to meet people where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
Like I talk to a lot of other garage owners across the country, and pretty much the sentiment is, I don't know how to speak their language. Like they're like you guys are from another planet.
We're not.
No.
At least
but
not.
Ray West, I think he said it best, and he did say that no matter what generation, the underline is the hard work.
That's right.
Any generational individual can be lazy. I don't think it's just
generational.
So that was a good show. I don't know if we have a show number to that, but you guys can check it out. WrenchNation.tv. That was the World War II veteran mechanic Ray West that hung out with us. And I think as far as shout-outs, there's plenty of you guys that actually came down to the garage. We had the $50 Visa Challenge gift cards. Sometimes Frank forgot to buy the gift card, and we just gave you $50 cash. My accountant's going to love that.
Hey, Frank, not to interrupt, but it was show 129, the Veterans Tribute.
All right, 129. You can catch that. You guys can binge listen and let us know what you think. And I always say, we love to hear from you. And a lot of you gotten out on Facebook and direct messaged us about show ideas. I think this platform is going to allow us to get more flexible, portable. So now we've got our Rode stands, we've got these Shure mics, we've got this Yamaha mixer, we've got the Sterling phone splitter, and we're using for now this GarageBand to record. So give us your show ideas. And, we expect a little talk here on the future. We expect next year to do bigger and greater things by bringing colorful stories. One of the things, Tyler, you mentioned on the break that you enjoyed doing this is that it's impromptu a little bit,
but it's comfortable.
It is, and I want to see more of that.
Yeah. We're not in the studio.
I have to reflect, and Susie, we talk about this all the time. When you invite somebody into like a radio studio, they get nervous.
It's intimidating.
Intimidated. Yeah. First time for sure is definitely a little scary, but
so I'm hoping this breaks that barrier. Can't guarantee it, but I'll tease this out to you guys for sure. We are going to be covering Barrett Jackson. That was the door chime for the
we're in the garage. Yeah,
who's coming in?
Yeah, who's coming in? We're closed for business, but we are going to cover Barrett Jackson. We're really excited. Of course, last year we did the Russo and Steel. We had Drew Alcazar on and did some interviewing with him about one of the biggest car shows, and certainly Barrett Jackson is the largest. Both are great shows, but this year we're hopeful to get Craig Jackson on in January, but just extremely grateful to get any representative from Barrett Jackson. And my hope is that we can take this portable setup and actually take it to the show. My understanding is the live auction is owned by Discovery, so we won't be able to do anything there. But to be able to just kind of mix and mingle with folks setting up this portable setup. So, on that thought, that's kind of the idea for next year is to do more in the field and get folks to, we want to meet them where they're at.
100%.
I think you make a good point, Tyler. It's tough. You set these shows up and get folks in, and they're not who they are in the studio.
No.
Now, Frank, didn't you say we're in the top 5?
Well, you guys check it out. I Car Talk on iTunes, if you type in iTunes, we come up at least in the top 10.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't care about the top, bottom, whatever. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's therapy. For
It is
me,
therapy.
for you.
Vacation in the
And I
station.
want to open that up to many people in
Right.
the industry. I want to open that up for folks to have an outlet, to share their story. That's what's beautiful about podcasting. And certainly with Wrench Nation, that's the premise. And, during the past year, we saw things evolve really cool and really grateful that we've had some pretty awesome guests. And I can't guarantee it, but we're in talks with a few others. In talks, what does that mean? It's like, hey, can you emailed us, but we're waiting for another email, that sort of thing, the back and forth. And I don't want to mention specifics and names now. I can tell you that we are doing Tech Force Foundation. Jennifer Maher, the CEO, does an amazing job, who has the backing of many of the automotive industry, Snap-on, and many of the manufacturers that essentially keep that program going so that they can support scholarships to the automotive students out there and get them in the trade. So we're going to have her on the show for sure. And then certainly Barrett Jackson we've got booked, and I think we've got a couple other things for January. So
I'm excited.
Yeah, that's cool. It's almost like we need a 2-hour show today to give those shout outs, because we certainly have more people that we could have spoken
and
about.
we forgot a lot of people. What is the guy with the flying?
Oh, Tommy.
Tony Del Monte. Is it Tony? Tony.
Are
well,
you
yeah.
talking about the Flying Rio or
no,
which one? The
Flying Rio.
Yeah, Tommy.
He's local. And then we have a fellow out of Long Island, Tony.
Oh, Tony. Yeah, okay.
And then we've got Rich Borza out of Cleveland.
Okay.
We got a list of names.
And
I just can't remember.
And
Sorry.
names.
Yeah, but
I
you
think
guys
had it.
rock.
Tony Del Monte or something?
Yeah. He's one of the listeners.
Yes.
1 out of 5.
And we appreciate.
No, man, we appreciate you guys, and that's the bottom line. And so invite you guys to check out some of the year-end shows. It's been special for us, and at times it's work for us to be able to, put some guests together, and everyone's busy and so on. So, Tyler, last words before we get out.
Last words. Looking back on the year and in previous years, Wrench Nation, I think, I appreciate Wrench Nation. The ability to go the places we've gone and meet the incredible people we've met and just hear the stories people have.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, we appreciate you, man. Tyler's the guy he's holding the camera. He's got the gear bag.
I'm in the background.
He makes sure Frank doesn't lose his keys. Well, thank you, brother. I admire you, hand bump, brother.
You.
Appreciate you. Next year's going to be a big year. Susie, what are you thinking next year? What do you see? What would you like more of from Wrench Nation?
Wrench Nation. Well, life is just a try, and this journey is amazing. The journey that you've allowed us to ride on with you, Frank, is just incredible.
Oh, it's not. I'm not no carpet. You're right on my. No, it's our journey, man.
But it's a journey that you started, and we've been grateful.
You're the door to the journey.
Yeah, so if you're tuning in, man, make it your journey. You're not only to sort of hang with us and listen to the show, but no matter what you do, if you would like to be on the show. We're an automotive community, but I think more importantly, we like to share some of the failures. I think that's what we're going to see more of. I want to open up this podcast to some of the mistakes, the hardcore mistakes that can happen in just a garage, and the things that you can take away. A lot of youngsters are listening. A lot of younger entrepreneurs are listening, and I think there's too much sizzle out there. We see what success looks like, and we don't know, truly
that's true.
The story behind it. So we're going to do our bit to not only bring you some more powerful guests and some of the things that they've done.
And also, Frank, you know what?
Yeah.
Take a chance, because you know what? I was not in the automotive industry. I mean, I spent majority of my life as a grocer, as a banker, as a retailer, and I would have never thought in 100 years I'd be in the automotive industry.
A lot of people told me, "What are you doing?" When we got together, Susie, a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
And I'm blind to that. I always go with my instinct and the people passion. And some would say, you're passion, you're being an idiot. What about the skill set? What about the technical side of what you're hiring? And maybe that's a weak point for me, maybe not. I haven't really failed at that over the years.
But it's worked for us.
But you came on board, and that's absolutely, I'm glad you brought that up, because you had no experience.
No.
Other than life experience, and definitely know how to deal and hang and make people happy and deal with some of the calamities that can happen.
Absolutely.
And how to turn things around. So
Thank you,
there
Frank.
you have it. A little insight to the Susie Sockets and Tyler Torres. And always grateful. Frank Lloyd's here with Wrench Nation. You guys get up onto the podcast, iTunes. If you're catching this show for the first time, we so appreciate. And if you've been hanging out with us through the thick and thin, man, we appreciate you guys too. We're signing off. We'll see you. Make 2019 an incredible year. It's not about the success. It's not about the failures. It is just the simple thing. Have the courage. And that's what it's about. Thanks for hanging. Wrench Nation, Car Talk.